Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Here I am again reporting another video, another reality check, this time about the recent earthquakes happening all over the Philippines. So the Philippines experiences thousands of tremors every single month. These are tiny movements under the earth, too deep, too small to even notice though, but that's normal. In fact, we record dozens to hundreds of micro earthquakes every single day. But here's what's not normal. This past month, no, starting September 30 to this month, we've seen a clear spike in earthquakes that we actually feel on the surface. Not just, the usual recorded one under the earth that usually happens every day. But shaking you can physically experience, and I think that changes things. So on September 30, a 6.9 earthquake hit near Cebu in the northern part of Cebu, killing at least 79 people. And on October 10, a 7.4 struck off Davao Oriental with tsunami warnings there. And there were also casualties. Then came aftershocks, even a 5.7 in Visayas, and smaller ones like the 4.4 in La Union, all felt on the surface. So what's really going on? Is this something to worry about? And what does this mean if you're living in or planning to move to the Philippines? So this video is for you guys. I have to admit, I'm a little worried about these earthquakes. And I'm worried these earthquakes are getting closer to Manila. And why does that matter? Why does it sound like Manila is something special? Well, aside from the fact that it is one of the most densely populated cities in the country, scientists have been warning for years that the big one could hit at any time. The thing is, it's not a matter of if, it's it's a matter of when. So it really makes you think, is the big one on its way? How the experts call it, it's the big one. So I'm not here to spread fear, I'm not here to scare you away, but if you're planning to move here, invest here, or even retire here, you have to understand something very important. The Philippines can never be truly prepared for a massive earthquake. And that's another reality. You see, this country sits right on the Pacific Ring of Fire. What does that mean? I mean, we all know that, it's not a secret. We have dozens of active faults and volcanoes, and yet we keep building and developing like nothing's ever gonna happen. We just build and build and build as if we are immune. We call it progress. We say, oh, look how fast the city is growing. But most of these projects don't even integrate real earthquake resistant designs. And if you ask around, if you ask people, they will just say, well, there's really nothing we can do if a huge earthquake happens anyway. That's very typical Filipino way of thinking, the short term way of thinking. And I think it's not that people really don't care about it. I think it's more like deep down, they've accepted that nothing's going to change because time and time again, the government has failed to protect them. So eventually, people stop expecting anything at all. They stop expecting anything good at all. They are aware that no one will save them. So just give up and don't plan ahead. We just say, ha, bahala na. Balan si Batman. God will protect us. And then we move on. But let's compare. In Japan, many buildings are built to survive strong earthquakes. They have strict building codes and advanced technology, like, base isolation and dampers, systems that absorb the shaking. So some skyscrapers even have massive pendulums that, help balance the structure during an earthquake. So yeah, their buildings are literally designed to dance, to sway and bend without collapsing. That's why 87% of new buildings in Japan can withstand major earthquakes. Now, let's talk about Philippines. So according to a study by FIVO, the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, and some Japanese engineers, Some high-rise buildings in the Philippines do not even meet our own building code requirements when tested for earthquake resistance. So think about that. Not Japan's standards, our own standards. That means some of these so-called earthquake-ready towers in Manila can't even pass the basic test. And it's not just about old buildings, even the newer ones. Because here, as long as it looks, modern, people think it's strong. But strength isn't about how shiny or tall a building is, right? It's about what's inside the materials, the foundation, the structure, the quality of the steel. And if you've lived here long enough, you already know how substandard most construction work can be. And if it's not a Japanese company or a foreign contractor handling the project, there's a big chance that corners were cut somewhere or budget were cut somewhere. So when a developer says, "Oh, our condo is built to resist strong earthquakes," you should really ask, based on whose standard? Because Japan's standard and our standard are not the same. And when we talk about building standards, even some of our Southeast Asian neighbors are way ahead. Like, Singapore is on another level. We all know that. Even countries like Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia, some of them aren't even as earthquake prone as we are, and yet they've updated their codes. They're not just written, they are actively enforced, implemented, especially in cities and large scale developments. That's the key difference. Meanwhile, here in the Philippines, we're sitting right on top, on the ring of fire, but acting like we are immune to it. And also, according to an article, many high rise buildings in Metro Manila, including BGC, your favorite, are generally safe actually, if only if designed and constructed in accordance with the code. That is a question. Do they follow the code? Do they follow the standards and the building code? A developer in BGC, which is federal land, incorporated a viscoelastic coupler damping. So it's a system in its condo development, a system specifically meant to absorb vibrations from earthquakes and winds. It's a high-end condo development in BGC by federal land. And also the design standards and guidelines document for BGC explicitly states that building construction must comply with national codes as part of all buildings in the zone. But then again, while several buildings are explicitly stated to have these advanced features, not every building in BGC is documented publicly as having such enhancements. And also, let's go back to history for a moment. In 1990, Baguio was hit by a magnitude of 7.8 earthquake. It destroyed buildings, flattened hotels, cracked roads. The entire city was isolated for weeks, if not months. So, I studied in Baguio when I was in college. And some of my professors were there in the 1990 earthquake, when it happened. They said it was terrifying. Buildings turned into pancakes and people had to camp at the biggest park, which is the Burnham Park, because everyone was afraid to stay inside. And after a week, the whole place smelled like rotten meat because so many were trapped under the rubble. And you know what? Many of those buildings weren't even that tall. So imagine if something like that hits Metro Manila with all the condos, the offices, malls packed next to each other. What do you think is going to happen? And scientists have been warning us for years about this big one. So the big one, that's the West Valley Fault. It runs from Bulacan through Quezon City, Marikina, Pasig, Taguig, Muntinlupa, all the way to Cavite and Laguna. If that fault line moves, we could have a magnitude 7.2 earthquake. That's enough to destroy over 100,000 buildings and kill 10,000 of people. That is based on real studies. But what are we doing about it? We still keep developing right on top of the fault. We still keep building high rises without making sure they meet proper standards for earthquakes. It's like we're all just waiting for it to happen and pretend that it's not going to affect us. And don't forget, the Philippines also has, a lot of active volcanoes. Some of it are Taal, the cute Taal.
And just 5 days ago, Taal volcano had three minor eruptions.
Mayon volcano, pinatubok.
Mount Canlaon's minor eruption 6 days ago.
Experts say they're not directly connected, but they sit on the same tectonic system. That means one major movement underground could trigger another event. So, Mount Pinatubo, if you are familiar, eruption in 1991 was the second biggest in the 20th century. And that's in a time when we had less population and fewer buildings. If something like that happens now, with all the cities and infrastructures we've built, the damage would be unimaginable. So, this is the reality. This is the truth. The reason why the Philippines will never be prepared is not just because we lack money or technology. I think we can afford the technology. But I think the main reason is because of our mindset. We think short term. We cut corners, we cut budget, we build cheap and fast. Fast? Maybe not really fast. So yeah, that's the mentality we have. That's why no matter how many warnings experts give us, we'll always be caught off guard, I think. So, just with the typhoons or any other kinds of disaster, it's not like these things are new to us. They happen every single year. Yet people are always unprepared. So, are you still planning to move to the Philippines, or do you still want to check? Are you still considering? Well, that's up to you, but now I think you need really to consider this and understand the earthquakes you're seeing now in Cebu, in Davao, in different parts of the country, Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao. They're reminders that this country is moving, but literally moving. And if the big one happens, no one can say, oh, we didn't know this is going to happen. Take this as your warning, because we all know. Now we all know. So if you're not prepared still, we just chose not to prepare. Other countries, they prepare by implementing and enforcing building codes and standards for earthquakes. In the Philippines, we just pray. That's the best that we can do. We pray. And that's the difference, because here in the Philippines, resistance is usually just a word until the ground decides to test it. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you all. Stay safe, everyone.